go. Everybody ready? Turn your mics on.
Turn on the mics.
Okay, I call to order the Rolesville Board of Commissioners work session. This is May 21, 2024. We just have a few items tonight. We got approval of agenda, consideration approval of the consent agenda, and then just the 24-25 budget presentation. I do think we will have a executive session planned after that. So with that, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight, and people that are watching live online. Probably the biggest item we have tonight is the presentation of the manager's budget for next year. How we're going to use our money very productively. So I think there's a lot of things in the budget. So with that, I will take consideration for the approval of this agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion to move in a second. Any other discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposes, I don't think. Consider approval of the consent agenda. There's two items on there. One is the planning space lease and budget amendment that I think the town manager been working pretty hard on that. There's a lot of numbers in there for you guys to have reviewed and looked at. And then the other one is the Rolesville Rural Fire Department Unification Resolution. This is a non-binding informal resolution that I think the fire department and the town of Rolesville have come together. And we will have I think we're still planning, Eric, are we still planning to have a joint meeting, a signing type meeting? So, but just want you
yes,
guys
Mr. Mayor.
to
It'll take place the first meeting of next month.
okay.
First June meeting.
We're going to do it here then.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, so with that, I will entertain consideration for approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, okay? And now, what we're ready for is a 24-25 budget presentation.
Oh, yeah.
And I see we have the financial director here if needed, and interim town manager. So Eric, are you going to start the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, well, I will turn the floor over to you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hope that y'all are doing well. Mr. Mayor, Board, and community members who are here and who will tune in, it's a great pleasure and an honor to present to you the proposed budget for 2024-25. Before I dive into the presentation, I'll just give you an overview of the order of the presentation. So I'll do a quick recap of the town vision, and then I'll talk about the budget priorities, how we develop them, how we reach those, land those priorities, and then I'll give an overview of the budget, and then talk about revenues, and then go through the three kind of priority areas, which will kind of help frame the conversation, so you can see how the budget is set up, within those three priority areas, I'll pull out some of the high level things. I won't go through every single piece of the operating budget, the kind of pieces, the portions of the budget that naturally kind of inflate or change, but I'll point out the major differences between last year's budget and this one, and talk through the major changes that'll be happening within each of those areas. Then lastly, I'll go over the next steps and what we can look forward to. The town vision is captured within the strategic plan. It reads, genuine communities thrives in Rolesville as we seek to build a place that focuses on walkability, connections to parks, greenways, and gathering spaces. As you know, our strategic plan is currently being refreshed or updated. And so this looks a little different, and will look a little different when you see the updated strategic plan that you all see in probably about 3 or 4 weeks, where we have an executive leadership session looking at the proposed strategic plan tomorrow. And so we'll walk through with the executive leadership team and help refine that before we present it to you next month. Despite the change in vision over the years, The focus areas have remained the same and will remain the same in the upcoming strategic plan, which is community connection, which is fostering opportunities to build connections, most importantly, create civic life for the residents to participate in. The second one is planned investment, which is building community assets to meet growing needs. When we think about planned investment, oftentimes we look forward, but one thing I wanted to just highlight is that we have already grown a lot. And so a big part of our community investment is catching up with our infrastructure to make sure we're bringing those experiences for our residents that currently live here. And the third focus area is mindful growth, which is promoting development while maintaining small town character. If you walk out to Main Street, you'll see that we are promoting development, promoting development. And if you listen to the conversation that we have with our residents on a day-to-day basis, you'll see that we're trying to maintain a small town feel by listening to them and talking to them on a day-to-day basis. And lastly is organizational excellence, which is built around ensuring resources are used for the greatest benefit. This will be, organizational excellence will transition into what will be the first priority that you'll see within the budget, which is investing in the development and trust of our town staff. We believe, you all believe, you share the sentiment that our human asset is our greatest asset when it comes to any successful organization, and particularly in public service, where our subject matter experts are out in the field every single day and taking in requests from the community and also making decisions when it comes to stewarding town resources. The second priority is improving, scaling, and expanding core town services. And the third priority that you'll see that stands out within the budget and the manager's message is funding the capital improvement program. The budget priorities were, as I said, framed by the strategic plan, but I think it's important that I mention that the priorities were also developed through conversation with the budget committee, listening to the conversations and all prior conversations, particularly around the capital improvement program, with you all doing a budget retreat and ongoing conversations with the community on a day-to-day basis. So I will first start with an overview. Rolesville in general is dynamic and is evolving. We received an update on our population. We're close to 13,000 people a few days ago. And so that is something that's really exciting. And every single year, we have new homes, new infrastructure, and most importantly, new responsibilities that we have to meet and uphold with our new residents. Like fiscal years past, the intent of this proposed budget is to position town for growth to happen for the town and not just to the town. The total budget is $18,860,750. That is, in comparison to last year's approved budget, that's a 19% increase. 6% of that increase is a result of natural growth, and those are things that continue to grow over years, which is just increase in service, cost of living, and just inflation when it comes to services that we provide the community. And the other 13% is a byproduct of the property tax valuation that's being dedicated to the long-term investment into town infrastructure. I'll go over that when we chat about the CIP and the priority 3. In general, one thing that you want to recognize on a year-to-year basis, because you see the biggest jump is in the capital project. A large jump is in the capital projects fund, is that it's based off project-based spending. And so as we think about new projects and they roll into our portfolio and they become activated, then as we enter in debt or finance those things, then that number goes up and down from year to year. With revenues, you'll see that a big portion of our revenues come from property taxes, which is ad valorem taxes. We continue to work with economic development to diversify that and bring in more commercial revenues. And second to that, you will see is sales tax. We're expecting these revenues to be moderate as inflation continues to go down. If you look at our general fund expenditures, this is mostly operating. You'll see that public safety takes up a very large portion of our expenditures. One thing to point out, which was highlighted in the consent agenda earlier today, was the unification. Their Rolesville Fire Department at 8% is a cost share. And so as we move into not this fiscal year, but the next fiscal year, there will be an internal department. And so you'll see that public safety will expand when it comes to that. And then also you'll see later when I make in the proposed budget with the internalization of yard waste, that that public works number will also over the next year will be a larger percent as we internalize yard waste over the year. Before I dive into the priorities, I want to talk a little bit about revenues and highlight just 4 big things that stand out. And so with property taxes, the proposed budget does include a recommendation to decrease the property tax rate to 40 cent or 40 pennies. And with the motor vehicle fee, that will remain the same, which is $30 per vehicle. The solid waste fee will remain the same at $25 per month. And the schedule fees, which is something we have not updated in a while, is going to be updated. And so what I'll do is I'll show you a detail of that after I chat through a little bit more about the property taxes. So just as a reminder, when we talk about pennies, when it comes to tax valuation, our median residential property value is $538,000, which sets us up for every penny of tax. For the median owner, it costs about $53.80 per year. And so when we talk about pennies, and I make that recommendation later, then that's how you can kind of translate that into the impact on the average resident within Rolesville. Also with the penny, just on a grand scale, when you think about the CIP program, the value of a penny now brings in $240,000 of revenue. And so you'll see that within the budget proposal, the proposed budget as well.
You said 240, I'm sorry, I missed that.
240,000 is the value of a penny. So this was a property tax valuation year, which I said increased the value of a penny. Because values have increases, because the value of a penny has increased, then that allows us to be able to decrease the tax rate. The previous tax rate was 46 cents. I'm recommending a decrease to 40 cents, but I also want to use this as an opportunity to fund future services. Yes. And so one upcoming need is the implementation of a stormwater program. That is something that's mandated by the state as we cross that threshold of 10,000 residents, which was long due. And so we're in the process of developing that stormwater management program. It has been a process that's been taking us about 2 years. And now we're moving into the mandatory steps of personnel. And so there, when I talk through priority 1, you see the recommendation of a stormwater maintenance technician. And so that is a requirement that has to happen at the initiation of a stormwater plan. And then when you operationalize stormwater plan, you also have to bring in a stormwater manager, which would be something that we have to think about for FY 25-26. And so that's something that we'll prepare for throughout the year. And it will not be, the work will not be captured financially, but there will be a lot of effort with staff to help bring that stormwater management plan about.
Question, just to make sure I understand the need for the stormwater is because you said we reached the 10,000 people
Yes.
threshold. And just so that way the citizens know, this is not something that we're doing ancillary just because
That's
we
correct.
want to. It's a need because of where we've gone with our growth.
Yeah, that's correct. So with the increase of a population becomes an increase of homes, and with the increase of homes and infrastructure and streets, there's an increase of impervious surface. And so the water that typically hits the ground, sucks it to the ground, ends up hitting the hard surface and has to be controlled to go somewhere. And if you don't establish a stormwater management plan, then it leads to, from an infrastructure standpoint, flooding, things like that, and also it impacts water quality. When since we're out here and we have a lot of wells and things of that nature within our area, that's particularly important. And also we sit very close to a watershed. And so it's a lot of factors that go into that stormwater management that we need to take into account.
And that's a requirement, right, from either
That
Wake
is-
County or the state? What
That's from
is
the,
it?
yes, with the state, yes.
State.
And so I'm recommending that we do a half a cent towards the effort that over the years will change and also fund what will eventually be a stormwater utility. And so that'll be similar, everyone typically has that. We have fees in place for, that go towards parks and recreation, solid waste, yard waste. And so that particular part of the taxes will fund that stormwater utility, which the requirements for a stormwater management program increase as your population increases. And so the thought is that that half a penny will increase with the growth of the town and continue to fund that effort that will grow over time.
Recommended to do that every year?
So by establishing that penny, that half a penny, then the value of that penny will increase. And so we can assess it on a year-to-year basis, but the hope is that that value will continue to fund that.
Okay.
But there will definitely be more things that need to be taken into account as we learn more about the requirements that we have to do.
And just to be clear, is there another threshold once we reach 15,000, 20,000? I'm just curious in preparation.
I am not wholly sure.
Okay.
We are digesting what it looks like to cross the threshold at 10,000 now. And so we'll gladly keep you in the loop with that and give updates with that.
Thank you.
In addition to that half a penny, the other bigger need is to plan for future growth through an investment in our capital expenditures. So the budget includes a recommendation to dedicate an additional 7.2 cents towards that effort. And to clarify, when it comes to future services, that's community amendments, that is also connected to public safety, which is a new police department, as that department is growing, fire station, and the town campus that you'll see within the CIP model, which isn't covered in great detail within this presentation, but is available for us to chat through. And this is a conversation we've been having from year to year when it comes to CIP. And so because of time, not able to go into great detail, but this is the simplified version that kind of sums up our capital improvement plan. And it's a 5-year CIP model that was developed in conjunction with our financial advisor, Davenport. We've worked several months to prioritize these projects and also look at the cost and then tie them together when it comes to funding sources. When you look at 24, 25, you see that this year we initiated the construction, the design phase of a lot of these things. And also that's, the farm entrance and then the amphitheater. The amphitheater, we have applied for some alternative funding grant for that. And so we're waiting to hear back on that. 2 weeks ago, they had, maybe it was last week, had the formal site visit for it. So when it comes to applying for a grant, when they say, hey, we want to come out and look at the project, that's usually a good sign for that. And the model takes into the expected or approved future commercial and residential development as well. And I wanted to emphasize the lower part, which is the tax impact. When I mentioned earlier that 7.2 cent, that is where it is, that 7.2 cent, oh, the pointer doesn't show up on the screen. It's highlighted in the lower part of that first column. The remaining columns show the projects associated with campus site, the police station, the fire station, which I mentioned, the farm activation, the library and town hall, and it shows the required funding that are attached to each one of those. With the increase of the property taxes, I wanted to just highlight where we are with relation to the area in East Wake County. And so this is last year's or the current property tax rate at 46 cents. And you'll see that we are still sitting, we are at the lowest when it comes to Eastern Wake County. And then even after these proposed budgets, as we looked at the projected the proposed property tax rates of the rest of Wake County will still remain will still be the lowest in Eastern Wake County if the proposed tax rate is adopted. This is a detail of the schedule of fees, more specifically the fees that will change in the fee schedule. That's a big part of the budget manual that you'll see. And so these are, a majority of these are connected to development. And so the sketch plan, site development plans, the contractors pay the contractors, developers, they pay these fees when they engage us to develop. And so this is a step in the right direction to help negate the fees that we are incurring through hiring our consultants to do work and our town engineers. The lower three fees are connected to public safety, and those are fees that are attached to off-duty officers. And so what we want to do is promote some accountability within that. And so like the late request, if someone requests for an off-duty officer to work their event last minute or late, then there's an additional $15. And that dovetails into making sure that we're supporting our staff because they have to course correct their whole entire weekend to move away from their family, and they're already serving at a high level on a day-to-day basis. So with the schedule of fees there, you can look through any of the other fees and see if you have any ideas, but that'll be included in the budget manual for you to look at. I believe that page is like 80 to 84, but you can check that out at a later time. Now I'll do a deep dive into priority one, which is investing in the development and trust of town staff. I felt that it was important to include trust in the title of the priority because this ultimately one thing that encapsulates retention. And so you trust an organization and you stay. And within the proposed budget, you'll see a few different things. The first two, which is a cost of living, a recommendation for a cost of living increase. This is in accordance with market value, 3.25% and merit, and a merit increase of up to 3% that staff will receive on their anniversary. Within the proposed budget, you also see a pay study that we'll be funding. That is a regular or routine thing. And also within the proposed budget, you'll see paid overtime. This is specific to our law enforcement officers. They're accruing a lot of comp time, and their preference, as they expressed during the budget process, was to get paid for their overtime. There's also additional overtime that is proposed that we provide for part-time staff within Parks and Recreation as they kind of navigate and expand some of their services after hours. Another incentive that I'm proposing within the proposed budget for our police department is FTO, or Field Training Officer incentives. One thing that happens within a police department as they grow is that you bring in new talent out of the academy, or they need a lot of training. Our police department prioritizes training of new members to the team. If you are fresh out of
Bill it.
say it again?
Bill it.
Yeah, and so if you have little to no, if you have the less experience you have, the more training you need from experienced staff within the department, and that takes additional time, additional paperwork after hours, and so there'll be an officer, be it a lieutenant or a sergeant, or even chief, if he has to fill in for somebody that's on vacation, that will ride with them and teach them the proper way to execute those things that they learned as they went through the academy. And they have to stay afterwards and do paperwork. And so what we want to do is to keep ourselves as being competitive when it comes to retaining officers, especially experienced officers, which is very important to have, is to offer an incentive to those officers that serve as FTOs or field training officers. With health benefits, we are including AFLAC as an option for staff to automatically deduct in their payroll for. And then from a wellness standpoint, we added another gym membership that, which is workout anytime across the street.
Question
That-
for you, sir. With the AFLAC benefits, would that cover short-term and long-term disability?
No. So that fills, what AFLAC does is fill the gap between what your insurance pays and what it costs you in real time.
Okay.
And so once you hit your threshold of $5,000 or $150 for a copay or a service, then AFLAC helps negate that additional burden when it comes to your healthcare services. They also went through a number of different things related to cancer diagnosis and things that cost a lot of money to treat, to support. And so what, thanks to Lisa, provide another option or alternative for them to kind of use as they navigate those health crises that we pray don't happen.
I think that's a great benefit to add. We had that one, and our family had used that several times, that benefit. It's amazing, so good add for the staff. I do have one question. The pay study, is that an annual thing?
It happens every 3 years.
Every
right?
3
Correct.
years? Okay.
Yes,
I
it's
was
every
thinking
3
it hadn't
years.
been done for a minute, okay.
Mhm.
How long is the pay study? How long is the process?
The goal is for it to happen it should happen within the first 6 months of the fiscal year because it impacts the preparation of the budget for next year that starts in January.
Correct.
And so we should have a response or have an idea of where we are. And that will turn into a recommendation to fund at a certain percentage, be it 100% or 80% or what have you. And so there'd be a decision that you all have to make, but it'll be a proposed change to compensation. And also there might be organizational changes as well, but typically the pay study only focuses on how people are compensated. So preparation for the pay study also went into how we're navigating this budget and some of the organizational changes that I'll talk about in a second. Some things that we'll be putting effort to that aren't necessarily costing us money, but is something that I wanted to highlight, which is that connects to the organizational strategy, is implementing the strategic plan that we'll finalize this year, looking at how we can make more data-driven decision-making in real time. And this is also a proactive approach to providing some training around budget analysis and things that we observe within this budget process to make it so to where we can be more effective next year in our budget so that people can present information in a way that is informed so we can better communicate to you all about those decisions. And also, most importantly, messaging, which is the third bullet, is storytelling and the ability to communicate with transparency to the community how the funds are being used. And that's also pivotal in getting access to alternative funding like grants. And so if you don't have the data, you don't have the story, you can't write a grant proposal to get funds. And the last two, which are very, very important, are fire unification. That's something we're continuing to work with, and I feel that we are at a great place with, and a performance evaluation system. I think we have a performance evaluation system now that because of the transition between town manager and different things, we haven't been able to provide coaching and feedback to staff the way we would like to so that we can have an impactful implementation of our merit increases from a year to year. And so typically when you look at the performance management and how it relates to a merit increase, it'll be you provide a scale of like 2%, 3%, 4%, meets, exceeds, all those things. And so it's not just a way to compensate our staff, it's also a way to provide feedback and point out places in which they can grow, develop, and expand so they can kind of seize opportunities that come their way within the organization. Within the proposed budget, you'll see 5 new positions. I included one at the top, which is, it's 6 actually. 6 new positions. There's community resource officer, stormwater technician, lead maintenance worker, and maintenance worker. I want to highlight that the lead maintenance worker and the maintenance worker are connected to the internalization of our yard waste program and bringing that internal. And so they will offer the capacity to execute that program and make sure that there's continuity in the level of service with our yard waste program. Part-time firefighter, I'm including this one, even though it's a cost share, but I wanted to include it because it's funding towards that with our fire department. And then lastly, a capital projects manager, which connects office capacity to execute in our CIP program.
The community police officer, is that a sworn officer that does community work?
Earlier, I mentioned that I'm offering up organizational, that we did work in preparation for the pay study. And what helps in the year before pay study is that you speak with staff and you look at the actual functions that they are doing on a day-to-day basis. And so when we looked at the work that people are doing, their contributions to their department and the level in which they were serving leadership-wise within their department, that led to 5 different changes. One you already know about and you approved maybe two months ago, which is a reclassification of a senior planner to an assistant planner director. The subsequent ones is a community engagement, the community and economic development manager being reclassed to an economic development director, given the responsibility that has happened with our Downtown Development Association, managing those funds. He's serving at a higher level, and also the addition of communications as a direct report. And so it's something that was proposed as a department, has been operating that way financially or fiscally. So providing the organizational structure a shift with that. The next one is the public works superintendent being reclassed to a public works director. This just comes with the expansion of services within the department, and also recognizing the leadership value that that superintendent has been adding, because this department has been going without a public works director. I've been informally like an acting public works director, and over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've done the training necessary for that superintendent to step into that capacity at a high level. The next reclassification is the project facilities coordinator within the Parks and Recreation to a parks superintendent. And then the last doesn't have a fiscal impact, but is a title change, and that is for within our finance department, the title change of a customer care specialist to an administrative support specialist. So the proposed reclassifications and title changes, I believe, will position us to where their titles reflect the work they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, so that when we perform the pay study, then it'll be more congruent when it comes to their compensation and how the pay bands, those things that may shift as a result to their work program. This is our organizational chart. The shift that the pointer doesn't point, but I wanted to highlight is that the Parks and Recreation Department, to give some context, this is a continuation of a discussion I was having with the former manager, and that is the town manager had 9 direct reports. And so how do you begin to section off the operational part of the town to make it more of a portfolio and report to the assistant town manager? That aligns with the organizational assessment that was done in 2020. And this is just a continuation of those steps for that. And so the Parks and Recreation Department goes from being a dotted line reporting to a formal reporting to the assistant town manager. And one thing that if I would have put it in here, it would have made it, the organizational chart, a little bit too clouded, is what will be the initiation of what will be an engineering department. And so the addition of the capital improvements project manager, that will be a direct report to the assistant town manager. And then the stormwater maintenance technician will be posited within Public Works. And so that kind of rounds out that operational portfolio that you see that's typical to most organizations and most towns and municipalities. So those will be organizational shifts that you'll see reflected in the proposed budget within the org chart. That, yes, and so that's just given the proposed positions and current positions, they're a more aligned place within the organization. The second priority that you'll see reflected in the proposed budget is improving, scaling, and expanding core town services. The first, which I had spoke on a bit, and I, for the second time, won't belabor the point, is just our stormwater management program. And so that is a previous service that Wake County provided for us, that now that we've reached a certain threshold in population that we have to bring internal. And so that will be reflected in the proposed budget.
Eric,
Yes.
I just remember when you had said that when I went to DC for the National League of Cities, I'm looking at my computer now of a contact that I email you that can help us with federal funding for water infrastructure and environmental protection.
Yes.
I'll give you that contact.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The second service,
Save
When-
our dollars.
the second service when it comes to expanding core town services is yard waste. We've seen an uptick in the expenditure related, the cost to operate yard waste. It's the second most expensive to solid waste and recycling collection operation that we have. And so the proposed budget represents a transition of that service internal to our Public Works Department. I believe it's an opportune time with the Public Works facility coming online, which we got our meter approved, and we should be able to move in within the next week, by the way. Long overdue. And sorry, that's just, we're really excited about that one. And so we believe it's opportune when it comes to operations and also fiscally when it comes to organizational excellence and making sure that we're providing things at the best, providing services at the best cost and benefit.
When do you think that'll be effective,
When you say effective.
the starting of
Go into play.
internal?
So the trucks have been ordered. The goal is for the operation to be phased in, starting with leaf season. And so when the leaf truck arrives, this leaf season that begins in late September, October, that runs through the beginning of the year, we will use the money that we usually commit to that to fund that operation. And we have signed, instead of extending our contract with Allen Street Service, which is our service provider, for 3 years like we typically do, we've extended it 6 months to carry us through December with an option to renew on a month-to-month basis in the event that the knuckle boom truck is delayed. So the goal is the end of the year, and that is what we're hopeful for and working towards. Thankfully, Allen Tree Service is a willing partner for the transition and has been meeting with Isaac and Tammy within Public Works to go over everything from routes, preferred ways of pickup, and even looking at different training. So
That's
we believe it
awesome.
will be December.
Just to reiterate, over the medium to long term, this is a substantial cost savings measure for the town.
Yes, very substantial. Yes, it's our greatest expense, our second biggest expense. And what you'll see in the budget, which is explained in the manager's message, is that funding, the cost of operating does not change as a result of the transition, but the destination or the endpoint of the revenues, it will go into the Public Works Department in the program to help sustain it and purchase the apparatus, which is the vehicles, and the equipment and software needed to navigate the program. The other three services that will be internalizing in the proposed budget are, number one, we'll be purchasing an aerator attachment. That's a one-time purchase that you'll see that we'll purchase out of general fund. We spend close to, I want to say $60,000 or $70,000 on aeration on a year-to-year basis. The attachment that will connect to one of the pieces of equipment that we already have to pull it or drive it is about $40,000. And so it's an instant savings when it comes to paying someone to do the service. And the addition of the public works staff also lend more labor to providing that service. The second is a GPS-driven field painter. This is something that we'll be leasing to own, I believe, leasing. Instead of purchasing, it paints the field, you know, and so when it rains, the paint washes away. It's a very long process to string and paint a field manually, and this can paint 2 fields within 30 minutes with 1 person. And so the goal of this is to save money on paint. Number one, it's way less paint, but also free up capacity, because there's an opportunity cost to having 2 or 3 staff members painting a field. Every time it rains, got to go touch up the field, touch up the field. Every time you cut the grass, you have to go touch up the field. And so that will lend labor back to the use on other things within the town, other services, and also the yard waste program. And the third one is just internally transitioning from the North Carolina Department of Transportation subscription to having our own subscription when it comes to Microsoft services. And so that's Office 365. And so we'll navigate that transition as well. The third priority that you'll see within the budget is funding the capital improvement program. It's very important that we continue to make strategic investments in the future of our infrastructure. We've had great success to date. And earlier I mentioned an additional 7.2 cents that goes towards capital savings. For several years, we contributed on an annual basis 3.5 cents towards capital savings. And because the value of a penny has increased, that regular operation of contributing to our capital savings 3.5 cents, you'll see in the proposed budget that it'll be decreased to 2.4 cents. And so that's something that we do on an annual basis, is contribute to our capital savings program. And I just wanted to state for clarity that the 7.2 cents that will go towards capital savings will be in addition to what we already regularly commit to the capital savings. Altogether, between the ongoing contribution to the capital savings program and the new contribution, minus what we need for this year's CIP, the budget invests $1.5 million into the capital savings program. I want to take a moment just to highlight some of the completed projects, and that is to date, which is the town campus land master plan, and also the East Young Street sidewalk. And if you look over in Parks and Recreation, the Granite Falls Greenway, the Farm Park Land Master Plan, and River Place Park field lights. And so these are things that we've executed within the capital projects program between 2016 and 2023. And the projects that we have in process are the Public Works facility, which will be coming to a close soon. The Main Street Lap project, which will continue over the next few years. And then the Rogers Road Willoughby project, which is just started about 3 or 4 weeks ago and should be completed by late summer. The Parks and Recreation related CIP projects that are in progress are the farm entrance, the Granite Falls Greenway, and the Millbridge Amphitheater, which I mentioned earlier that we have been working on getting alternative funding for.
Eric, is the farm entry completed funded in the budget?
Yes.
I know we had some discrepancies of price increases and stuff.
Yes. You'll see that project fully funded within the budget. Yes.
Has DOT finally gotten back to you?
I am not sure. I will have to check on that. Still waiting on one signature. Again, this is the model that's before you. On a previous slide, when we're talking about the revenues, I pointed out the bottom line, which is tax impact. What I wanted to highlight now is the upper part, the upper rows, which looks at the planning that is taking place. And I felt led to just remind you that we've been working on the CIP model for several years. We've convened with you all, talked with you all. We've brought in Davenport. We've done a lot of work to prioritize the CIP based off community need, unification, public safety, and also our relationships with other municipalities, i.e. Wake County, when it comes to the library. And so the CIP model is comprehensive, and it really looks at how, when you read through the order of it, this model speaks to you when it comes to what are our priorities, what are things that we're looking at now, and what do we see as being the immediate needs. And altogether, that tax rate, reserving cents to fund it will help us execute the CIP model we believe in a very timely fashion. So next steps. Firstly, just want to thank you for the opportunity to present this proposed budget to you. I believe it sets us up, as I mentioned earlier, it's just for growth to happen for us, not to us, and also positions us to really invest in infrastructure needed to meet some of the desires of a lot of the residents that have moved to the area. And so not just the fringe things that you get that come with growth, but real community assets that our community can utilize and enjoy and really thrive with. The next steps when it comes to the budget process is a public hearing, and at which time the public can come forth and provide their input on the proposed budget. That the proposed budget will be posted to the website tomorrow for everyone to see, and also the proposed budget, you all will receive it. You also receive a copy of the presentation at the end of this presentation or later tonight, and for you all to review it. And so that also gives you a time to give your feedback as well. The budget by North Carolina General Statute has to be adopted by July 1, but you can feel free to adopt it at any point in time that's sooner than July 1. But that is just a very important date when it comes to making sure that we are in good position to execute next fiscal year. Do you have any questions right now? I know that you all have not seen the budget. I wanted the opportunity to present to you and talk through some things from a value standpoint before you took a deep dive and went through it line by line and number by number. But we're open to any feedback you have, and also we'll be reaching out to the budget committee after you've had some time to sit and look at it to talk about some of those things that are important to you.
Okay, any questions from the board? And I guess Amy is fair game too, if she can answer any questions. So, any questions from the board?
Just got one about the date for it. The adoption deadline is July 1st, which is on a Saturday. So does that mean that we could probably adopt it at our budget meeting? I mean, I'm sorry, not budget meeting, but our work session on the 21st? Or does it have?
It can happen at any meeting prior to that date. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
But it can't happen after the public hearing. It
Right,
can't happen
right.
before the public hearing.
Right.
That is
What I'm saying
required
is
in
that
the
the public
process.
hearing need to happen, and then we could probably do it
Yes.
the
And
21st.
so when we have the public hearing, if something comes up that has to go back to staff that causes you to take something into account, then we can take that back to staff and bring an amended proposed budget to you for your acceptance at the following meeting.
Yeah, so looking at the meeting calendar, we could, first opportunity, we could, after the public hearing on June the 4th, and then we'll meet again on June the 18th for a
Yes.
workshop, we could do it then. Anything other than that, we have to have a special meeting for July.
That's correct.
So we got two opportunities to approve it without having a special meeting.
Can we just not come up with a date and exclusively now and say by the 18th?
Yeah, we usually do. I mean, we have to see what happens on the
On the 4th.
on the 4th, but naturally, I think our goal would be to prove it on the 18th at the latest, right?
Yes.
So we don't want to go anytime after that.
Agreed.
Eric, real quick, on your calendar showing all the different projects and everything, and the tax impact, you showed 7.16 cents, but we've talked about 7.2 cents and a half cent. So is the 7.16 just the capital improvement
Yes.
piece?
It's the capital improvement.
So the total
Yes.
increase, or the total amount we're looking at is closer to 7.7? Or is it even,
It's 9.6.
okay, okay.
But the 2.4, well, what was a 3.5 that
Right,
decreased to
right.
2.4
Which is our annual, which we
is
dropped
something that
down.
happens annually.
Okay. All right, thanks.
And the CIP model only reflected the cents that were
Added.
committed for the CIP.
Right.
If that makes sense. And so you see the other 2.4 cent at another place within the budget.
Okay, thank you.
And part of my lack of understanding about the savings programs, I think,
Yes.
so you mentioned 1.5 million, that's also included in the cents in terms of the budget that we're putting
So
aside.
that is the, I provided the 1.5 because that's the number of increased revenues we will receive as a result of doing the 7.2 cent minus,
Okay, got you. Okay. So that comes with the,
2.4?
minus, what's the language? Yes, minus what we're spending in the capital budget.
okay.
Any other questions? This is an opportunity to get your questions answered. Any other questions from the board? I don't have any. We did a very good job representing it for sure. Nicely laid out. And I just want to, first of all, thank you, Eric, for putting this together and presenting it. It is a manager's budget. Now we have to work on it, improve it, and make it a town budget. So appreciate you putting the manager's budget together. And I do want to thank Amy also. Amy has a big part of that, and she's getting very efficient at doing this, I think, after so many years, and very good job there. Also, Paul and Linwood, I want to thank y'all. I think y'all was a committee, right, the budget committee. First time we've had that in several years. I hope that worked out. I see some head nodding.
It was very beneficial. As you go through the budget process, it's very good to have those touch points to clarify certain things. And so once you start the process, you have all these different things that are happening. You're having Davenport come in. We're talking to residents connected to the strategic plan. And so it's very useful to have those touch points to bring it to you all and kind of continue to narrow things down. It's also good for creating transparency and making sure that when the community approaches you and asks a question about things within the budget, that you all understand, have context behind the number and see the stories behind the numbers as well. But yeah, it was very beneficial.
Good, that's good to hear. So we'll probably make that ongoing.
Yeah,
if
we
if
would very much like that.
Yeah.
It was very useful.
All right, and so appreciate both of you for serving there. I think it's so many, also have to acknowledge that really helps out, from the police chief to the planning directors, all the leaders in town is somewhat involved in it. So, and it's like a lot of things in life. It's a lot of give and take. So appreciate y'all working as a team coming up with this budget. Thank you, and we'll take it to a public hearing next week, see what happens. Not next 2 weeks from now, see what happens, and appreciate you putting it together. Thank you. Okay, so with that, our last item is, I think, is a request for a executive session. Does someone have that motion? I know it was sent out earlier.
Should be in everyone's inbox.
And I can, I can read it if it's appropriate.
That'd be
Okay.
fine.
The motion would be, I move the board go into closed session, discuss a confidential personnel pursuant to Chapter 143, Section 318.11A6 of the North Carolina General Statutes. I will put that out there and open for a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a
Second.
second? All right, not sure who seconded it. Who seconded?
Mr. Paul did.
Robin determined who seconded it. So with that, is any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And no, so we will adjourn to closed session. We will come back after that, and if anybody want to hang around. So thank you for the ones that came tonight and people listening. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Sir, before you hit that gavel, congratulations publicly are still in order for our interim town manager. Eric Marsh has been honored as, again, in the top influencer for local government 2024 for the second time, right?
This be my third time.
Third time, three-peat.
Oh, excuse us.
Correction.
Excuse us. Thank you for the correction,
Third time.
Third time in 5 years.
sir. Since you're saying.
Third time. Congratulations, sir.
Sorry.
I love it.
Thank you. It's an honor. Consistency is important within the profession,
Yes, sir.
and also contributing outside of the place you work to the profession, to the community, mentoring people who are coming out of the MPA programs, participating in mock job interviews, being a resource for people to ask questions. A big part of how I've been successful is just having a team of people who are way further than me and people who are behind me to challenge me how I think. And so it's just, it's an honor to be recognized by my peers. It's an honor to have someone throw my name in the hat again. It's not something I asked for, but it's always a pleasant surprise. And so thank you. Thanks. And also thanks to staff for all the kind words. I shared it on my personal LinkedIn maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, but somehow it made it to the staff last week. I did not know that was going to happen, but I had an influx of very nice emails and encouragement, and it was very timely, given that budget season had made me lose a few hairs on the front and gain a few gray ones on the side above the ear. And so I guess it'll be good for my next headshot to show that I'm more seasoned.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's great. And one thing about Eric, you know, I've attended quite a few state level things in the past couple months. And a lot of people know Eric. I mean, you know, I mentioned Eric Marsh, and they say, yeah, I know Eric. I know I worked with him, so forth. So Eric really networked a lot for the last many, many years and statewide in the community and everything. So he's well known. He's well known by a lot of his peers and other organizations for sure. So with that, we will take adjournment to go into closed session. We'll be back after that. Really don't have anything to report from our executive session, so that's really concludes our business for tonight. Attorney, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Manager, you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. So with that, anything from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you, appreciate it. And thanks everybody for watching tonight. So I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. It's gonna be some phone calls. It's gonna be some phone calls in the morning.
It will be.
Yes, I slipped up.
Yes, you did, because you said